The Modern Warfare Uzi or the Cold War Milano, which one is the best inside Warzone? That is the question this video is going to answer. In this video we're going to break down the stats for both guns and compare them to find out which one is the best. If you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe as we're going to be making a lot more weapon comparison videos. Our next video is going to compare the Tundra and the HDR, and we're going to be comparing a lot more of the Cold War as well as Modern Warfare weapons inside Warzone. The Milano being a solid Cold War multiplayer weapon, and the Uzi being one of the most popular ground loot weapons inside Warzone, it seemed like a no-brainer to compare both of these guns together, and some of the stats might actually surprise you. Before we get into the comparison, I do want to mention that these stats were taken from Warzone. We tested inside the Trials game mode, so some of these stats won't be 100% accurate. If we were able to test inside a private lobby, we would get better results. But this is what we were able to test, so we wanted to share it with you. On the screen here, you'll see the stats for both guns. We have the Cold War Milano on the left, the Modern Warfare Uzi on the right, and this is including the AE rounds. We usually don't include attachments in our videos, but most people that are going to be using the Uzi, especially in a loadout setting, is going to be using the AE rounds, and that's why I wanted to use that as our comparison. But if you want to see the base Uzi damage, you can see that at the very bottom of the screen in yellow. So what we can see here is that the Cold War Milano for headshot damage is 55, 40, 34. The body shot damage is 34, 25, 22. What that means is the damage profile for the Milano is pretty much exactly the same as the base damage profile for the Uzi. If you compare this to the AE rounds now, you can see that the Uzi is 55, 46, 40 for the headshot damage, and then 40, 34, 30 for the body shot damage. And what this means is the damage is going to drop off from 40 to 34 and then from 34 to 30 at each damage range. In terms of shots to kill, what we can see for headshots, it doesn't really make a difference using the AE rounds, but for body shot damage is one less shot to kill up close with the AE rounds with the Uzi compared to the Milano. Next we'll look at the rate of fire, and the rate of fire for the Milano as we calculated was 593 rounds per minute. And then for the Modern Warfare Uzi, it's 603 rounds per minute. And what this means is your time to kill values are very low with both of these guns. So for the Milano, it's going to be 708 milliseconds up close, which is a really long time. It's close to a second almost. And then it goes to 910 milliseconds. And then after that, it's over a second in terms of the time to kill. With the AE rounds on the Uzi, you can see the time to kill is 597 milliseconds. Then it drops off down to 697 milliseconds and then 796 milliseconds, which is definitely much better than the Milano, but is definitely not one of the fastest time to kills in the game. What is quite surprising to me this time around, when we usually compare Cold War weapons to the Modern Warfare counterpart, the damage drop-off distances are usually longer with the Cold War guns, but in this case the Milano drops off after 15 meters and then after 24 meters, whereas the Uzi AE rounds drops off after 18 meters and then 30 meters, so the longer distance goes to the Uzi. The aim down sight speed advantage goes to the Uzi at 163 milliseconds, whereas the Milano has a 200 millisecond aim down sight speed. The mag size for both guns is 32 rounds. The reload time for the Milano is 2.6 seconds, whereas the Uzi reloads in 2.3 seconds. The Milano's bullet velocity is the same as it is in multiplayer, and then for the Uzi's bullet velocity is 537 meters per second. Overall, all advantages so far seem to be going towards the Uzi. When adding those AE rounds on, it gives you a faster time to kill, it's faster at reloading, and it also has a larger damage drop-off range. Something about the Milano just feels really good to use. It's a very easy to use weapon. The bullet velocity of the Milano is pretty bad, but if you unlock the first barrel, the extended barrel, this definitely helps the gun significantly. This is something I mentioned time and time again, is the bullet velocity for the Cold War guns is way too slow. If that was brought up a little bit, it would make the guns a bit more viable. The other issue with Cold War weapons is recoil, but the Milano has little to no recoil in this game, and this is why the gun feels so much better than a lot of the other Cold War weapons. The first recoil chart you'll see is comparing the Cold War Milano with the Modern Warfare Uzi as the base weapon, and you can see both guns have pretty low recoil. The Milano goes upwards and to the right, which is a very easy recoil pattern to master, and the Uzi is very tightly grouped down the centre. To keep the testing consistent, all of our recoil charts were taken at a 12 meter distance. If you're going to choose between one of these two guns based off their base recoil pattern, both guns are very easy to manage and you could choose either one just depending on your preference. Personally, I think the Uzi has a bit more horizontal recoil and therefore I prefer the MILANO. I also want to show you the comparison with the MILANO and the Uzi with the AE rounds. This was taken at the same distance. We can see that the MILANO has the same recoil pattern as before, and then the Uzi with the AE rounds has much more vertical recoil. What that means is, if you're going to use the AE rounds, which most people are, it's going to be a bit more difficult to control that upwards recoil of the gun. In terms of overall recoil, the MILANO is going to be the much easier weapon to control. You're not going to miss a single shot with the MILANO, trust me. The recoil pattern is way too easy to manage, especially at those closer ranges. The MILANO is good for landing 100% of your shots, but this does not necessarily mean you're going to drop enemies very quickly. That time to kill is still very slow. If you come up against something like a MAC 10 or an MP5, let alone an R90 shotgun, you're going to be coming up short quite a lot of the time unless you catch your enemy off guard. Another thing I should mention about the MILANO is that reloading is a bit of a problem at the moment with the Cold War weapons. You cannot reload cancel with the Cold War guns. So that is an advantage that does go to the Modern Warfare guns at the moment until this gets fixed. The last and a very important thing to consider with SMGs is the hipfire accuracy. Now this is tested without any attachments of course, so if you added on a 5mm laser you could get the hipfire accuracy to be much better than what we're going to show on the screen just now. On the screen here you'll see the Hipfire chart for both guns, and this is why the ground loot variant for both of these guns is so good. Because even without any special attachments, the hipfire is so accurate with both of these guns. There isn't a whole lot that separates these guns in terms of hipfire accuracy either. They're both very good here, but if I had to choose one, just based off the feel, I think the MILANO is slightly better just after playing with this gun in game. I just feel like when I'm hipfiring with that base ground loot gun, it's very accurate, so I would prefer the MILANO over the Uzi in this case. But as you can see, both guns are extremely accurate. I would hate to see how both of these guns would look if you added on a 5mm laser, but that is besides the point. All the testing in this video was done without attachments. What that means is adding on certain attachments can improve the stats for both of these guns, and especially for the MILANO, adding on something that's going to improve the bullet velocity is going to be very important. The attachment stats are currently constantly changing until it's fully balanced, and that is the reason I didn't want to include any attachment stats. Once it's all settled, we will make an updated video comparing both guns again. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave us a like as it helps us get recommended more. On top of that, if you're new to the channel and you want to see more weapon comparisons, weapon stat breakdowns, or anything Cold War as well as Warzone Season 1, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content. Thank you very much for watching.